Desire was described as the driving force that motivates all humans, and it was said that people spend their lives pursuing and fulfilling their many desires. However, it was also explained that there exists one particular desire that can never truly be fulfilled, a madness without end known as the desire for a workout session. From this endless craving, it was said that one day a monster was born, an entity driven by an unlimited and insatiable desire, which then began to cause destruction throughout the city. As chaos spread, it was believed that the world was in need of a hero. In response to this crisis, a magical sorcerer-caked girl was said to have appeared with the purpose of saving the people of the city from the rampaging monster. During one such moment, when the monster was wreaking havoc, she was described as arriving at the scene and confronting it directly. With immense strength and force, she ultimately destroyed the monster. After the battle, it was noted that she was accompanied by a companion in the form of a bunny. The bunny was said to have praised her, encouraged her by stating that she had done a great job, and addressed her by her heroic name, Red. In response, she was described as looking at him and addressing him as Namju Sunbae, while remarking that he should have already gone home. Upon hearing this, he reportedly panicked and quickly told her to be quiet, warning her that she could not reveal his real name so openly in public. He then addressed her by her real name, Urin, and remarked that if she intended to expose his identity like that, he would have no choice but to reveal hers as well, even if it meant she would have to give up her normal life. In reaction to this, it was said that she slapped him, blaming him for her current situation. She stated that she had been manipulated into becoming a sorcerer girl because of him, and insisted that if he had any problems, he should handle them himself. In response, he attempted to justify himself by saying that the situation had been unavoidable. She then pointed out that even on that particular weekend morning, he had called her out, only for it to end with her having to complete work again. He, however, denied this, and explained that he had genuinely invited her out simply to buy her some food. He added that he had even made a reservation at a dessert cafe she liked, and asked her to trust him. Hearing this, she responded that she would consider matching his effort this time. Before they could leave, it was observed that a group of people nearby began praising the sorcerer girl Red, expressing that there was nothing to worry about as long as she was present. After acknowledging them with thanks, she was said to have flown away. Eventually, both of them arrived at a quiet and deserted street. There, he commented that in such a place, it was unlikely anyone would notice them. Following this, both of them reverted to their real appearances. He then suggested that before eating, they should first cleanse the black heart. She looked at him and questioned whether he truly did not remember anything, which left him confused. She then dismissed the matter and stated that they should simply begin. As she started removing the black heart, it was explained that whenever a monster is defeated, a black heart appears an entity that represents the accumulation of that monster's desires. She further stated that those who endure their trials are meant to embrace the dawn of a mystical awakening, and that cleansing the black heart involves materializing those desires. After completing the explanation, it was said that both of them began performing a workout session together. Kim Namju was reflecting on the fact that this unusual relationship had only begun 3 weeks earlier. He recalled how everything had started when he opened his eyes one day and found himself transformed into some sort of mascot, staring at a doll positioned in front of him. The mascot had spoken to him, remarking that she had thought he would have already adapted to that body. She then introduced herself as Siobi, explaining that she was a fairy from a world called Suchiria. She further stated that she had come to Earth with the purpose of protecting it, and revealed that she was the original owner of the body he was currently inhabiting, which she had given to him due to certain circumstances. Namju, now realizing that he was sharing the same body as Siobi, began to panic and questioned whether he had died and entered the afterlife, pleading with the fairy to save him. Siobi, however, clarified that he had not died, but had instead been reborn into that body, and along with it, he had been entrusted with certain duties. She explained that he was supposed to form a contract with a magical girl and fight against evil monsters using the power of the dove, all in order to defeat the demons that had appeared on Earth. Despite hearing all of this, Namju found it hard to believe and assumed that he must be dreaming. Siobi responded by suggesting that the situation might not be as bad as he thought, and even offered an alternative if he disliked his current role so much. She could turn him into a magical girl instead. Namju immediately rejected the idea, but Siobi continued, offering him options such as becoming a cross-dressing magical girl or a more feminine magical boy. At that moment, a screen appeared before them displaying different transformations, and Namju curiously asked about one of them. Siobi casually replied that it was a particular type of magical transformation and jokingly suggested that it might suit him. Later, Namju went outside and realized that everything that had happened was real, as he had returned to his original body. Siobi informed him that she had transferred enough of her memories to him so that he could understand the situation better, and then she disappeared. Namju noticed that the strange doll was gone and came to understand that his real task now was to locate the magical girl. While thinking about this, he accidentally bumped into a girl on the street, causing her to spill coffee on herself. She turned out to be Yu Aaron, a first-year junior who had disliked him ever since their freshman orientation. This encounter reminded him of a past incident when he had gone to use the bathroom and had unexpectedly found Aaron unconscious there. Panicking, he had asked if any girls were present, only to be told that they had all gone out, leaving him in an awkward situation due to the cold weather outside. Although he had tried to preserve her dignity, his actions had ultimately led to a major misunderstanding, causing her to view him negatively ever since. Returning to the present, Namju reflected that this was why he had been avoiding her all this time. However, he also sensed something unusual. He felt that the power of a magical girl resided within her. At that moment, a giant monster suddenly appeared before him. He had previously imagined that such enemies would look harmless or toy-like, but instead, he was confronted with a massive and terrifying creature. Realizing the urgency of the situation, Namju concluded that he needed to turn Aaron into a magical girl so she could fight the monster. Meanwhile, Aaron struggled to comprehend what was happening, initially assuming it might be an earthquake. Suddenly, she noticed a floating Masco tangent-like doll in front of her, which asked if she would like to form a contract and become a magical girl. Confused and unable to fully process the situation, she questioned what she was seeing. The doll, which was actually Namju, pointed out the monster and explained that it was a demon born from overwhelming desire, a person who had been consumed and transformed into such a creature. Aaron questioned whether it was similar to him, but Namju reassured her that if she became a magical girl, she would have the power to save others. He explained that she possessed the aura of love, which gave her the potential to defeat the demon and protect everyone. Namju reflected internally that regardless of how much she disliked him, he could not ignore someone in danger. Aaron, however, expressed frustration, saying that regardless of whether it was love or something else, she mainly wanted to stop that troublesome senior from causing her more problems. Despite this, she agreed to form the contract and demanded to be turned into a magical girl. Namju hesitated briefly, but Aaron urged him to hurry as the monster was approaching. He attempted to explain that the person who had become the monster might have had their own circumstances and that such transformations were often caused by external forces. However, Aaron grew impatient and demanded that he proceed. Finally, he agreed and initiated the contract, though he realized that everything had become increasingly chaotic. Still, he hoped that things would work out in the end. With the contract established, Aaron transformed into a magical girl just as the giant monster approached her, and soon after, an intense battle began between the two. After defeating the demon, Aaron came to realize the truth that Namju had been the mascot all along, and that he had deceived her and used her to defeat the monster. Namju attempted to explain himself, stating that since they were a junior and a senior, he had believed she would help him. However, Aaron became visibly angry and confronted him, pointing out that he had already behaved strangely toward her during the previous event, and now he was expecting her to save him as well. In response, Namju insisted that what had happened during the MT event was merely a misunderstanding. Aaron, however, rejected that explanation and accused him of using the transformation as an excuse to get closer to her. Namju tried to justify himself by saying that such interaction had been an inevitable part of the contract process. Still unconvinced, Aaron argued that everything happening, the sudden transformation into a doll and the unexpected appearance of the monster had nothing to do with her, and she refused to be dragged into what she considered his scheme. As she turned to leave, Namju stopped her and told her to wait, explaining that there was still purification work left to be done. Aaron dismissed him and stated that she was leaving regardless. At that moment, Namju reflected internally that she believed he had done all of this merely to get close to her, and he felt that there was nothing he could do to change that perception. Recalling the memories that the strange doll had shown him, he remembered that the black heart remains with the magical girl and continues to cause pain until it is purified. Realizing this, he apologized in his thoughts and resolved that if she refused, he would try to find a way to deal with it on his own. Later that evening, Aaron was taking a shower and reflecting on the events of the day. She described it as completely ridiculous, thinking about how she had suddenly become a magical girl and how Namju had caused unnecessary trouble. She felt that she had been dragged into everything for no reason. At first, she believed it should not have affected her much, but she soon noticed her body starting to ache unexpectedly. She assumed that she might have caught a cold and firmly decided that she would never get involved with him again. The next day, however, Aran dragged Namju aside into a corner, leaving him confused about what was happening. The two of them then entered a classroom, where Aran, clearly frustrated, told him that everything was his fault and that she had suffered because of it, so he needed to fix the situation. Namju realized that she had been unwell for the past few days and had eventually come to him on her own. Before agreeing to help, Namju told her that she first needed to promise that she would do whatever he asked of her. Internally, he acknowledged that this made him seem like a terrible person, but he felt he had no other choice since he needed her cooperation. Aran questioned why he was forcing her into such a condition and reminded him again that the situation was his fault from the beginning. Namju responded that if she refused, she could continue suffering as she was, adding that he did not fully understand the situation himself, but declining his offer would only cause her more pain. He then recited that those who have completed their journey are meant to meet the dawn. After hearing this, Aran reluctantly complied and asked if that was sufficient for him. Namju confirmed that it was and told her she had done well. Despite this, Aran thought to herself that he had just threatened her moments earlier, though she tried to push those thoughts aside and focus on what needed to be done. Following that, she opened the door of the room, only to be shocked as it revealed a vast space beyond, something completely unexpected that left her stunned. As she reacted in surprise, Namju stopped her and told her that she could not go any further until she showed him her melons. Namju was continuing to pressure Aran to fulfill his demand, while she reacted angrily, shouting that he seemed to be forgetting that she was a magical girl capable of destroying monsters and that she could end his life at any moment. However, she was taken aback when he suddenly stopped her with ease. He then told her that her powers were meaningless in that situation because they were inside his dream world, a place where he was in complete control until his desires were fulfilled. He reminded her that she had already made a promise earlier, stating that she would do whatever he asked of her. Using that promise, he ordered her to comply while he was still asking politely. Hearing this, Aran began to feel that something was off. She reflected on how strange both he and the surrounding space seemed, and then recalled that the monster they had faced earlier had also been obsessed with girls' balloons. At that moment, she came to an important realization that purification did not simply mean eliminating the monster, but rather fulfilling the lingering desire that had created it. This led her to understand that in order to escape, she would have to go along with the situation. Accepting that she had no other choice, she reluctantly decided to comply. Even so, she struggled internally, thinking that this behavior did not feel like herself. She reflected on how she had been in a strange state of mind for the past few days, feeling increasingly exhausted as she tried to shake it off, only to end up seeking him out instead. Concluding that there was no alternative, she accepted the situation as unavoidable. After reaching this understanding, both of them proceeded to carry out the workout session together. After completing the workout session, Aran was described as looking visibly frustrated. Namju, noticing her condition, asked whether she was really okay. In response, she accused him of using the entire situation as an excuse for his own intentions. Namju replied that she should have at least memorized the magic spells properly. Aran, however, told him not to pretend ignorance, insisting that he had made her do exactly what he wanted. At the same time, she began to think that perhaps it was better if he truly did not remember anything, especially since it had been her first time performing such a workout session. Namju then asked her if she had experienced a dream, but instead of answering directly, she struck him in frustration and stated that she had done everything required and was now leaving. Before she could walk away, Namju reminded her that she had promised to do whatever he asked. He explained that she was the only magical girl capable of fighting the demon beasts, and that even stronger and stranger enemies would begin to appear from now on. He warned that these monsters could endanger innocent people and questioned whether she was willing to let that happen. Hearing this, Aran reflected that purification required her to continue doing what she had done earlier. Although she initially thought that she should refuse, she found herself unable to do so. Reluctantly, she agreed, saying that they could continue. A few days later, news reports began circulating. A reporter stated that an unidentified and mysterious creature had appeared at a university, prompting authorities to investigate. However, the creature had disappeared without a trace. According to witness accounts, A woman resembling a magical girl from comics had fought against it. Elsewhere, a cloaked girl was seen expressing frustration, stating that it had become too difficult for her to deal with everything at once, and that she might be reprimanded if things continued this way. She concluded that she needed to gather stronger desires and approached a boy, remarking that there were still more desires to be exploited. Meanwhile, inside a department storage room, two girls entered and noticed a cute rabbit. They began taking pictures of it, wondering how it had ended up there. One of them commented that something felt strange. Soon, they realized that although there had initially been only one rabbit, there were now many. They speculated that the rabbits might have been released for some event taking place that day. However, their conversation was abruptly interrupted when the rabbits suddenly attacked them. Just before any harm could be done, Arin appeared in her magical girl form and swiftly eliminated the rabbits, declaring that they were actually monsters. Namju was also present in his mascot form and remarked that he had sensed a monster's presence, although he jokingly added that it almost felt like animal abuse given their appearance. Arin responded that he should have seen their mouths earlier, as they had been far more dangerous, though she also noted that they seemed too weak to be considered proper monsters. Namju cautioned her not to lower her guard, suggesting that they might have a separate main body. At that moment, Arin found herself thinking about how she had never imagined standing in front of people dressed in such an embarrassing outfit, and she expressed a desire to finish everything quickly. The two girls who had been rescued stared at her in awe, recognizing her as the figure mentioned in the news. They thanked her for saving them and began taking pictures, saying they would post them online. Arin quickly objected, telling them that they were not allowed to take her picture. However, before the situation could settle, more rabbit monsters suddenly appeared and launched another attack. In the chaos that followed, the two girls were transformed into bunny-like figures, escalating the situation once again. Arin tried to approach the two girls and asked if they were all right. However, they refused her concern, stating that they belonged to their master and asking her not to interfere with them. Hearing this, Arin began to wonder about the identity of this master. Soon after, the one they referred to appeared a figure in the form of a bunny. He remarked that he had gained some unexpected companions, but considered it part of his fate and did not mind. He then addressed the transformed bunny girls, asking if everything was as it should be, to which they complied. Arin observed him carefully and realized that he was not an ordinary enemy, thinking that he was far more dangerous than the ones she had faced before. The bunny-like figure then turned his attention to her and addressed her as a magical girl. Arin noticed that, although he appeared smaller than the previous demon, he seemed significantly stronger. She quietly asked Namju whether all monsters were this strange. Namju confirmed that they were and went on to explain that in modern society, the strongest desire was not one of the traditional categories but rather an overwhelming obsession, specifically the desire tied to workout and physical ideals. He explained that the stronger the desire, the stronger the demon born from the black heart, and that most demons eventually lose themselves to their desires and go mad. Arin concluded that this particular enemy must be different, as he had retained his sanity despite becoming a demon, which meant he was a special type. The bunny demon confirmed this, stating that he was not like the monsters she had previously encountered. He explained that the difference lay in the level of desire, declaring that he had no intention of being satisfied with just a few individuals. Instead, he intended to transform all of humanity into bunny girls and make them his servants. While he spoke, Arin remained focused, but at one point he even told her to pay attention to him, pointing out that the citizens around them were in danger and that it was her duty to protect them rather than be distracted. Namju urged that they should prioritize saving the people first, and Arin agreed. She resolved that since the battle had already begun, she would show everyone what it truly meant to be a magical girl. She then launched attacks against the bunny monsters, but was shocked to see that many ordinary girls had already been transformed into bunny-like beings. The bunny demon mocked her, saying that he had expected more from a magical girl, and that she did not even know how to properly use her power. Exhausted from running and fighting, Arin began to lose her stamina. The demon then declared that the real battle was just beginning, and challenged her to entertain him better than the transformed bunny girls had. At that moment, a group of people appeared and began shouting at the demon to leave, expressing their desire to protect the magical girl. Arin was surprised to see that people were gathering for her sake, cheering her on despite her doubts about her own abilities. Namju warned everyone to run away, fearing that the situation would become even more dangerous. Meanwhile, Arin began to feel something different. She sensed the emotions and hopes of the people around her. She wondered if this was the true source of a magical girl's power, believing that she could defeat the demon through this strength. However, the bunny demon suddenly attacked her, overpowering her and grabbing her by the neck. He declared that it was time for her to enter the world he had created. Namju tried to intervene and save her, but he was easily struck down and thrown to the ground by the demon. Arin rushed toward Namju and asked if he was all right. Despite his condition, he told her that she was not acting like a proper magical girl. He explained that the true source of a magical girl's power lies in the feeling of love, and that only by recognizing that love within herself could she summon her true weapon, known as the Whip of Love, which would allow her to fight properly. He reminded her that it was because she possessed the power of love that she had become a magical girl in the first place, and advised her to think of the person she cared about the most, even if she was not fully aware of it herself. Arin found this difficult, thinking that she had never been in love and did not even like anyone in that way. She insisted that there must be some kind of mistake. Still, she decided to try. Gathering her determination, she called out, attempting to summon a powerful heart weapon. At that moment, the bunny demon prepared to attack again, stating that he had given her enough time and would now crush her efforts while savoring her fear. Arin realized she had to focus and find something, anything that could truly move her heart. As she searched her memories, she recalled a moment before the MT event, when it had been raining heavily. She remembered unexpectedly meeting Namju, recognizing him as her senior from the department. They had exchanged a brief greeting, and when he realized he had forgotten his umbrella, he had taken one from the department and offered it to her instead. When she mentioned that she still had another class, he insisted that she take it, saying that he was heading home anyway. Returning to the present, Arin realized that she had been thinking about him more often than she had noticed. Meanwhile, the bunny demon continued to taunt her, warning that there would be no one to save her this time. Arin, feeling conflicted, dismissed the thought, telling herself that Namju was useless and that any feelings she had were likely distorted by the strange circumstances. Despite her doubts, she continued fighting. After an intense battle, she managed to defeat the bunny demon once again. The people around her began praising her, and she wondered whether purification would bring Namju back safely. Reluctantly, she began the purification process, admitting to herself that she did not truly want to do it, but that she was only doing it because he had helped her. She considered it a special favor and resolved to save him. However, after the purification, she found herself once again in a strange situation, wearing an unusual outfit and standing before the demon, who handed her a glass of wine. He reminded her that their levels of desire were different, and that she had merely been drawn into his world. With that, the situation once again shifted, and the two of them were forced to continue yet another workout session together. The next day, in the university department, a strikingly beautiful girl was seen standing alone while looking at her phone, repeatedly trying to call someone who was not answering. The people around her quietly admired her, commenting among themselves that there was hardly anyone in the department who did not know her. It was said that her presence and aura were so overwhelming that many tried to approach her, yet she never allowed anyone to get close. At that moment, another student approached her from behind, calling out her name, Min Sua, and asking whether she had finished her classes. The person suggested that they all go out for drinks together, mentioning that a new bar had recently opened. Sua simply looked at them silently, showing no interest, and the person eventually left. As he walked away, he remarked that because she ignored people like that, she had earned the nickname Ice Queen, adding that her cold demeanor only made her seem even more impressive. Meanwhile, on the other side, Arin was feeling unwell as a result of the previous workout session. She complained that she had no intention of getting involved in any magical girl activities again. Namju had ended up carrying her back from the department store. Arin assumed that her condition was likely a side effect of using the heart weapon, while Namju explained that she had simply used too much power too quickly. She angrily blamed him for everything and demanded that since he was already there, he should at least help her with cleaning. He agreed without argument. As he entered her home, Arin began to feel self-conscious, thinking that she had absent-mindedly allowed him inside. She reassured herself that there was no way she could be interested in someone like him, and assumed that her feelings were just the result of exhaustion from what she had experienced. She even thought that she should make him work just as hard as he had made her during the workout sessions. At one point, Namju suddenly moved closer to her, which caused her to misunderstand the situation, thinking that he might be about to initiate another workout session. However, he simply checked on her condition, pointing out that she was sweating heavily. He then revealed that he had brought her some medicine and porridge, advising her to take a break from all magical girl-related activities for the time being. Confused, Arin questioned whether this was another dream. Meanwhile, Namju felt that she was acting strangely and, unable to understand what she meant, decided to leave. As he opened the door, he found Min Sua standing outside. She called out to Arin, saying that she had not been answering her calls, and emotionally asked whether Arin had been avoiding her because she found her awkward. However, upon noticing Namju, Sua was startled. She immediately apologized, saying that she must have mistaken the place for somewhere else, and even showed him her phone in an attempt to justify herself. After awkwardly making an excuse, she managed to enter the house, where she saw Arin looking unwell. She expressed concern, saying that Arin had suddenly fallen sick and that she could not handle the situation alone. Namju, observing her behavior, found it surprising. He had known that Min Sua was famous in the school for being elegant and distant, yet he had not expected her to have such a clumsy and socially awkward side. He asked if something was troubling her, while also reflecting internally on how difficult it had been for him to adjust to all these unusual situations. At that moment, Sua received a call from the class president, who informed her that all freshmen were supposed to help clean the lecture hall that day. The president mentioned that the activity was about to begin and that neither Sua nor Arin had shown up, which caused concern. Both of them were told to come immediately. Sua then tried to wake Arin, insisting that they needed to go to the university right away. Namju stopped her, realizing that Sua was struggling socially and might not handle the situation well alone. In the end, he decided to accompany her to help with the cleaning. After they finished their work in the lecture hall, Sua thanked him for helping, admitting that she had been worried it might have been uncomfortable for him because of her presence. She confessed that she was actually very shy around people. Namju reassured her that it was not a problem, explaining that Arin was his friend and that it was natural for him to help. Meanwhile, other students began whispering among themselves, speculating that the two of them might be a couple. Namju noticed the attention she was receiving and remarked that people seemed drawn to her personality, encouraging her not to let it discourage her. He added that he had genuinely enjoyed getting to know her and suggested that they should have a meal together sometime. At that moment, Namju felt something unusual. As he reflected on it, he realized that although it was faint, Min Sua also seemed to possess the qualities of a magical girl. With Arin currently unable to continue, he concluded that they needed someone else to take her place. Acting on that realization, he reached out and grabbed Sua's hand, asking her if she would be willing to become a magical girl. Namju transformed himself into a mascot and asked Sua whether this would make her trust him a little more. His action left her visibly surprised, after which he explained that she must have already heard about the monster and the magical girl mentioned in the news. He revealed that the magical girl was none other than her own friend, Arin. He went on to clarify that the truth behind Arin's condition was not a simple cold, but rather the after effects of battling a demon. He urged Sua to think carefully about what might happen to Arin if she were forced to continue struggling alone in such a weakened state. Because of her injuries, he pointed out, Arin's ability to attend school would gradually decline, and she would likely miss out on school events and group activities. He added that there might even come a time when she would have to eat lunch alone, separated from everyone else. However, he emphasized that things could change if Sua decided to step in and help her. After hearing all of this, Sua stated that she would do it and that she was willing to become a magical girl. Namju responded by saying that he was certain Arin would welcome her decision. As he prepared to transform her, he silently hoped that he would not get punched like last time. With this, he succeeded once again in securing another magical girl. He then reassured Sua that there was no need to worry, explaining that since Arin had already dealt with the demon that day, another one would not appear anytime soon. He shifted the focus back to her, saying that more importantly, he wanted to hear about her feelings regarding becoming a magical girl. Sua simply replied that she was fine. Internally, Namju noted how calm she seemed despite wearing such a shocking outfit, and he expressed that he looked forward to working with her from now on, as they were now secret partners. Suddenly, an announcement echoed throughout the school, stating that they had detected the presence of a magical girl and that today's side dish would be her. This announcement startled both Namju and Sua. Moments later, a wall was violently shattered, and a robotic demon entered right in front of them. Sua immediately pointed out to Namju that he had claimed no demon would appear so soon. Panicking, Namju admitted that such a situation was not supposed to happen, but the reboot-type demon, Vasai, declared that it could appear anytime and anywhere. It expressed excitement at sensing a magical girl nearby, stating that the cries of a magical girl were far more thrilling than the dull screams of ordinary people. It openly declared its intention to kill her and asked if she was ready, saying that whether it was a curse-filled outburst or a declaration of justice, it wanted to hear her voice. Instead of speaking aloud, Sua chose to communicate by typing on her phone and using a text-to-speech function, avoiding the use of her own voice. Through this, she asked Namju what the demon meant by excitement. Meanwhile, the robotic demon continued to pressure her to speak directly. Namju instructed her to use her heart weapon, telling her to recall a moment when her heart had truly raced. At that instant, the demon's hand suddenly froze, leaving it unable to move. In the midst of this, Sua noticed a broom lying nearby. Acting quickly, she grabbed it, intending to use it as a weapon against the demon. After launching her attack on the robotic demon, Sua asked Namju whether she had done a good job. In response, he told her that she had been amazing right from the beginning, and then he asked her about the ice ability she had used during the fight. Sua explained that she had always been familiar with it, adding that even her nickname was related to that trait. She shared that since childhood, she had struggled with expressing herself through words, which often made people around her feel uncomfortable. Over time, she had come to see herself as someone who unintentionally pushed others away. At some point, she began to feel that the nickname Ice Wall truly described her personality, and she admitted that it seemed to suit her. Namju responded by telling her not to think so pessimistically. He encouraged her by saying that if she found the courage to approach others first from now on, people would surely welcome her. He also reassured her that by continuing her role as a magical girl, she would naturally become more accustomed to standing in front of others, whether she liked it or not. He added that she did not need to worry, as he would help her through that process. Sua thanked him for his support. Afterward, he instructed her to carry out the purification process, telling her that she had done very well. He then asked her to remove her face mask, but before she could do so, he explained that a crowd had already begun to gather, so he had brought her back home. He pointed out that she still needed to work on controlling her nerves, though he reassured her that no one would recognize her. He then remarked that since things had progressed this far, they should begin practicing seriously. He suggested that they practice by reading a book out loud, describing it as a kind of exercise where she would continue reading until the end, no matter what happened. After handing her the book, she began reading as instructed. As she continued, Namju gradually moved closer to her and explained that this was part of the process of maintaining focus and composure while reading. She eventually accepted this explanation. He then commented that she seemed rather unaware or inexperienced when it came to such situations. Following this, the two of them began engaging in workout exercises together, treating it as part of the overall purification and training process. After finishing the workout session, Namju and Sua went together to meet Aaron. Upon arriving, Namju brought up the matter directly, explaining to Aaron that Sua also possessed the potential and talent required to become a magical girl. However, instead of reacting positively, Aaron immediately responded with hostility. She raised her voice at Namju, accusing him of doing something inappropriate to her friend. Her concern quickly shifted towards Sua, and she urgently asked her whether Namju had done anything strange or uncomfortable to her. Sua calmly denied any such possibility and clarified that nothing unusual had happened. She explained that the two of them had only been practicing together in order to help her build confidence. Despite this explanation, Aaron found the situation even more suspicious. In her mind, the explanation did not ease her concerns but instead made things seem more questionable. She turned back to Namju and began scolding him again, accusing him of not being satisfied with troubling her alone and now dragging her friend into something equally strange. Namju, clearly frustrated, defended himself by insisting that he had not done anything wrong. He reminded Aaron that he had brought Sua there for her sake, implying that his intentions had been to help, rather than cause harm. Aaron then questioned them more directly, asking whether the two of them had already performed the purification together. Namju answered honestly that they had. Before the argument could escalate any further, Sua stepped in to calm the situation. She gently asked Aaron to stop being angry and explained that the decision had been entirely her own. She admitted that she had been worried about Aaron constantly putting herself in danger alone and emphasized that Aaron was her only friend. Because of that, she wanted to support her and share the burden instead of watching from the sidelines. Although Aaron stopped arguing outwardly, she still harbored strong feelings internally. She resolved in her mind that she would make sure Sua would never have to be put in such a position again, especially if it involved Namju. Later that night, both Sua and Aaron went together to meet Namju once more. As soon as they arrived, Aaron immediately confronted him again. She raised her voice, accusing him of having called them there with the intention of causing trouble at the Halloween festival. She implied that he had planned something suspicious from the start. Namju quickly denied the accusation and explained his actual reason for being there. He told them that he had sensed the aura of a demon in the area, which was why he had come. He then pointed out something important about the current situation, that Aaron had recently become quite popular, and because of that, many people were now cosplaying as magical girls at the festival. He warned that if a real demon were to appear, it might not be able to distinguish between actual magical girls and ordinary people in costume, which could lead to a serious and chaotic situation. Aren listened to this explanation and acknowledged that his reasoning made sense. Namju then turned to Sua and asked her to keep an eye on the surrounding crowd, to which she agreed without hesitation. However, as he observed her, he quietly noticed that her demeanor had changed again. She seemed colder and more withdrawn, and he realized that she likely became tense whenever she was surrounded by too many people. In the midst of the festival, a strange figure suddenly appeared, a being that resembled a pumpkin-headed demon. It began casually interacting with the crowd, almost blending in with the festive atmosphere. Aren immediately reacted by preparing to attack it, but Namju stopped her before she could act. He explained that this did not appear to be the same type of demon they had encountered before, particularly not one with a separated core, and he also mentioned that he could not sense any additional aura nearby. At that moment, a man approached Aren, confused and slightly alarmed by her behavior. He questioned her actions, asking why she was acting so aggressively. He insisted that he had done nothing wrong and accused her of suddenly trying to harm him despite his innocence. In response, Aren firmly stated that a demon could never be considered good, making it clear that she did not trust appearances. Soon after, the pumpkin-like demon made its presence more obvious and began speaking directly. It claimed that it had not even posed a threat and accused Aren of being blind to the situation. It complained in a casual and almost playful tone, mentioning that it had merely been waiting for its turn and had even planned to cosplay as a cross-dressing vampire next. It mockingly told them that they should at least play along with the mood and dance. Then, with a sense of pride, it declared that thanks to everyone's support, it had returned, describing itself as a demon that enjoyed cosplay. Nearby, a distressed girl was seen holding her head, clearly affected by something. She pleaded with the pumpkin demon to return her to her original form. In response, the demon implied that there was no easy way out for her, suggesting that her only option was to accept the situation as it was. At that critical moment, Aren stepped forward to protect the girl. The pumpkin demon then declared that it had grown stronger through the power of desire and confidently claimed that Aren would not be able to defeat it on her own. Hearing this, Aren realized internally that she had already exhausted much of her strength during an earlier ambush, which placed her at a disadvantage. Just as the situation seemed to tilt against her, Sua stepped in and joined her side, making it clear that Aren was no longer alone. The presence of a second magical girl immediately drew attention from the surrounding crowd. People began reacting with excitement and amazement, shouting that a new magical girl had appeared and openly praising her. Namju also expressed his approval, praising Sua for stepping forward and asking her how it felt to finally be acknowledged by so many people. Despite the growing attention and excitement from the crowd, he quickly recognized the risk of being exposed. He advised both of them that it would be better to leave the area as soon as possible, before anyone could recognize them, or the situation escalated further. After everything that had happened, the three of them returned home together. Once they had settled in, Namju brought the focus back to their responsibilities and stated that they should begin the purification process together. His tone suggested that it was something routine and necessary, rather than something to be delayed. However, Aren's thoughts were elsewhere. She looked at Sua and began to feel uneasy, burdened by concern. In her mind, she reflected on everything Sua had already gone through and felt that it was unfair to let her continue experiencing something so intense and uncomfortable. She quietly resolved that she could not allow her friend to endure this. Acting on that feeling, Aren stated that she would handle it herself. Her words carried a sense of determination, as if she wanted to take full responsibility and shield Sua from any further involvement. Hearing this, Sua became confused and slightly hurt. She questioned why they were trying to leave her out, wondering if she had done something wrong. Her concern was evident as she asked whether she had somehow failed to meet their expectations or had not been good enough. Aren immediately denied that idea and clarified her intentions. She explained that it was not about Sua being inadequate, but rather that she did not want her to be part of something that might make her feel uncomfortable. Her reasoning came from a place of care, as she genuinely wanted to protect her friend from anything unpleasant. In response, Sua expressed her true feelings, saying that she actually felt good being involved. Rather than feeling burdened, she seemed to find meaning and perhaps even comfort in participating, which contrasted with Arin's assumptions. Meanwhile, Namju, who had been observing the exchange, interrupted their conversation. He urged them to stop going back and forth and suggested that they should simply proceed with the purification without wasting more time. His practical approach contrasted with the emotional tension between the two girls. This remark frustrated Aren, who turned her irritation toward him. She questioned whether he had no sense of attachment or emotional awareness, especially regarding something she felt should have been more personal, something meant to be shared only between the two of them. Namju responded calmly, explaining that this was not the case, and that Aaron was already special in her own way. His words were meant to reassure her, though they did little to fully ease her frustration. Eventually, Aaron gave up on arguing further, and stated that she no longer cared about the disagreement. She concluded that they should simply proceed with the purification together and get it over with. Following that decision, Aaron and Namju began the purification process, which once again took the form of their workout-based training. Shortly afterward, Sua also joined them, fully participating in the session. In the end, all three of them carried out the purification together. After completing the workout session, Namju commented that his head was hurting, clearly showing signs of exhaustion. In response, Aaron pointed out that all of them had worked extremely hard, yet he was the one complaining about it. Namju tried to explain himself, saying that it felt as though the purifying process had drained something from him and forced something out of his body. At that point, Sua mentioned that she would go inside first, as she seemed equally tired. Namju acknowledged her effort, telling her that she had worked very hard that day and deserved proper rest. Sua agreed with him, and added that they could always continue the workout session another time when they were feeling better. With that, she quietly left the area, leaving the two of them behind. Aaron then turned back toward Namju and continued speaking to him, but her thoughts began to drift. Internally, she reflected on her earlier actions, realizing that what she had done felt more emotionally significant than she had expected. She struggled to understand her own feelings, questioning whether what she felt was genuine or just a passing confusion. She wondered if trying again would help her understand things more clearly, yet she remained uncertain about where she truly stood. Trying to compose herself, she asked Namju to close his eyes for a moment, telling him that she had something to show him. However, she quickly added that it did not mean anything and that he should not misunderstand her intentions. Namju admitted that he did not fully understand what she meant, but despite his confusion, he leaned slightly closer to her, as if anticipating what she was about to do. Just as the moment was about to develop further, a girl suddenly appeared nearby and greeted Aaron. Aaron was immediately startled by her sudden presence and questioned how the girl knew her name, quickly accusing her of being a stalker. In response, the girl calmly showed her phone and warned Aaron not to come any closer. She threatened that if Aaron approached her, she would upload a certain video specifically, a recording of her transformation. She claimed that she had spent a great deal of time following them around in order to gather such information. She further explained that if Aaron's identity were exposed, it would become impossible for her to continue living a normal life, emphasizing the seriousness of her threat. Namju, who had been observing the situation, stepped in and questioned the girl about her true motive. The girl openly admitted that from the very first moment she had seen Aaron, she had admired her completely, the costumes, the movements, and the way everything about her seemed to shine so brightly. However, she also expressed her belief that Aaron's behavior did not align with how a magical girl was supposed to act. She went on to explain her perspective, stating that magical girls were meant to captivate people with their adorable charm while representing justice and fighting against evil forces. She added that, even if the villain theme sometimes felt slightly out of place, magical girls had become a trending topic that everyone was talking about. Because of this popularity, she suggested that if they began live streaming their activities, they could earn a significant amount of money. Naturally, she positioned herself as the center of attention, proposing that as a new member, she would take the spotlight while the others would support her show from the background. Aaron immediately rejected the proposal, making it clear that there was no possibility she would agree to such an idea. In response, the girl calmly warned that if they refused her offer, she would have no choice but to leak the exclusive information she had gathered. Namju then intervened once again, telling the girl that it was impossible for her to become a magical girl in the first place. He explained that forming a contract required genuine feelings of love and the power that came from it, something he could not sense within her. The girl found his statement strange and responded by saying that she had plenty of boyfriends, implying that she was familiar with love. Namju clarified that what he meant was something deeper, and then added that, if her main concern was money, they could help her find another way to earn it. However, he insisted that she would first have to delete the video she was using as leverage. At that moment, the girl subtly revealed more of herself, and Namju sensed a faint magical energy coming from her. This realization left him confused, as he could not understand how such a thing was possible. The girl then leaned closer and quietly told him that whatever was happening between them would remain a secret. The following day, a mischief demon suddenly appeared, causing chaos and drawing attention. Aaron and Sua arrived at the scene to confront and eliminate the threat. During the encounter, Sua casually asked Aaron whether anything unusual had happened the previous night. Aaron avoided giving a direct answer and instead reminded her that their identities were at risk, urging her to stay focused and act accordingly. Meanwhile, the monster began attacking people, wielding a guitar and using it in an aggressive manner to bully and harm civilians. Aaron reacted angrily to the situation, openly cursing at the creature, while both she and Sua prepared their attacks. Together, they unleashed their powers, Aaron using flames and Sua using her glacial abilities to strike against the monster and push it back. In the middle of the battle, the same girl from the previous night suddenly appeared once again. This time, she revealed her own abilities, using electrical energy combined with a confident and flirtatious attitude. With a powerful surge of voltage, she struck the monster directly, bringing it down and effectively ending the fight. After defeating the creature, she confidently introduced herself to the surrounding crowd, declaring that she was Yellow, the new magical girl. At that moment, Namju brought out a camera, and she immediately took advantage of the situation by starting a live stream. Presenting herself energetically as Magical Girl Yellow, she began addressing the audience, enthusiastically encouraging viewers to like and follow her as she embraced her new role in the spotlight. After the battle with the demon had ended, Yellow began shouting at both Sua and Aaron, clearly frustrated and dissatisfied. She complained that they had failed to properly capture the scene with the correct color focus, emphasizing that it had been an extremely important moment, especially the part where she had been fighting the monster. She pointed out that the camera work had been completely ruined, with the focus misplaced, and criticized both of them for looking stiff and unnatural on screen. She went on to question whether they even cared about how they appeared in front of the camera, warning that if the views started to drop, their faces would quickly end up being blamed and exposed on the front page of the news. Namju stepped in and told Yellow to stop, urging her to calm down as both Aaron and Sua were already pushed to their limits. However, Yellow insisted that she herself was perfectly fine. Namju responded by pointing out that it was easy for her to say that, since she only showed up when it was time to record videos, rather than participating in the exhausting battles beforehand. As he thought about the situation, Namju reflected on how things had recently changed. Thanks to Yellow's non-stop live streaming efforts, Aaron and Sua had been forced to fight battles day and night in order to support her growing presence. Despite all their efforts, the lingering black hearts continued to torment them without pause. He then asked Yellow to assist them with the purification process, hoping she would contribute more meaningfully. Yellow, however, questioned what kind of demons they would be dealing with. After Namju told her the name of the demon, she immediately refused, stating that something about it felt off to her, which left him surprised by her reaction. At that point, Aaron intervened, telling Namju that it was enough. She then directly addressed Yellow, ordering her to come down from the monster she was standing on, and insisting that they settle the matter immediately. Aaron went as far as threatening that if she destroyed both Yellow and the camera, everything would come to an end right then and there. In response, Yellow remained unfazed and told Aaron that she would give her a break until the next demon appeared, suggesting that she should take some time to rest. Sometime later, Yellow was seen checking her bank account, noticing the large amount of money she had earned. She expressed satisfaction, thinking that she had known from the beginning that she could make a fortune this way. She also observed that her number of subscribers had increased significantly and believed that if this continued just a little longer, she would finally achieve what she wanted. However, before she could continue celebrating, she suddenly realized that she was falling from a building. Just as she was about to hit the ground, Namju appeared and saved her. She was visibly shocked to see him there. Namju explained that he had originally come to scold her, but seeing her current condition, he felt that there was no longer any need to do so. Yellow then admitted that something was wrong, saying that she could no longer use her powers and that she did not understand what had happened to her. Namju examined the situation and told her that her magical heart had been broken, something he had never seen happen before. He warned her that if this condition continued, she might eventually turn back into a normal person. This revelation shocked Yellow, as she immediately became concerned about losing everything, especially the money she had gained. Meanwhile, Namju reflected on how something about her had seemed strange from the very beginning. He recalled that while everyone else's magical hearts shone in primary colors, hers had always appeared gray. He then asked her whether she had ever truly experienced love, a question that caught her off guard. Unable to answer properly, she avoided the topic and simply told him to put her down anywhere. Namju reminded her that she had been the one who had blackmailed them using those videos. He then stated that he would delete all of them. Although she responded that it was fine, Namju added that before she left, she would need to earn her keep. A short while later, Yellow suddenly found herself standing in a crowded subway. She was confused and unable to understand how she had ended up there, as she clearly remembered being outside just moments ago. A strange and uneasy feeling surrounded her as she stood still, trying to process the situation. It was then that she realized an invisible hand was holding her in place. The presence behind it was Kim Namju. He quietly instructed her not to make any noise, explaining that what she was about to experience was a necessary punishment. He stated that after everything she had done to them, he intended to return it to her properly, in full measure, and told her to prepare herself for whatever was about to happen. After that, Namju began performing a workout session together with Yellow, and he also made sure to record the entire session using a camera. He carefully captured each movement while they trained, maintaining focus on documenting everything as part of the process, rather than just participating in it. The atmosphere remained slightly awkward due to their earlier tension, but the training still continued in a structured manner until they finally completed the session. Once the workout session came to an end, Namju casually mentioned to her that he could also make her invisible if she ever needed it. The moment she heard this, Yellow immediately reacted in shock and frustration, raising her voice and asking why he would bring something like that up at this point. She insisted that if he truly had such an ability, then he should have used it from the very beginning instead of mentioning it after everything was already done. Namju then responded in a calm and somewhat reflective tone, suggesting that perhaps it might have been more appropriate if they had been invisible from the start. Hearing this, Yellow quickly panicked, realizing the implication of what she had just said, and immediately denied that she had meant it in that way. She became visibly embarrassed, flustered by the misunderstanding, and without thinking any further, she suddenly turned around and ran away from the scene right after the workout session ended. After Namju left as well, Yellow remained alone, still feeling deeply embarrassed and unsettled. She replayed the entire conversation in her mind and became increasingly conscious of the fact that she had actually agreed to what he said earlier, even if it was unintentionally. The realization made her feel even more awkward and conflicted about her reaction. While standing alone, she began reflecting on her past self in a much deeper way. She thought about how she used to possess what she called a cardio card and how she had once been extremely popular. In her memory, she believed that men had always surrounded her, following her presence like satellites, orbiting around a planet. She saw herself as someone who could easily control social dynamics, pulling people in and pushing them away, like the shifting tides of the ocean. In her mind, she had once been at the top of the school hierarchy, seeing herself as a kind of predator within that structure, always above everyone else. However, as she continued thinking, she admitted to herself that she had accepted that position of superiority for a long time, until she eventually began to feel a strange sense of satisfaction in falling from that grace. This realization confused her, because it made her question whether the identity she once believed in was truly real or just something she had created in her mind. Her attention then shifted toward the camera that had recorded everything. For a moment, she felt an intense urge to destroy it, as if erasing it would remove the uncomfortable emotions she was experiencing. But before she could act on that impulse, she hesitated and stopped herself. She began thinking that maybe the situation was not as serious as it felt, that perhaps it was all just like a dream, and people might not even be able to recognize her from the video as long as her face remained hidden. After weighing her thoughts, she decided that she would upload the video only once and then delete it afterward, convincing herself that it would not cause any real harm. With that final decision, Yellow went ahead and uploaded her video on social media. On the very next day, Yellow appeared in front of Aaron and Sua and sincerely apologized for her previous rude words and behavior. She admitted that she had acted improperly and expressed regret for her actions. Aaron then turned to Namju and asked him what exactly had happened that caused such a change in Yellow's behavior and personality. In response, Namju explained that he had purified 3 black hearts at once, which had played a major role in the situation and the changes they were witnessing. At that moment, Yellow stepped forward and formally introduced herself once again. She stated that her real name was Young Daeon and that she was 19 years old. She added that she would sincerely try her best and work hard as a member of their team from now on. However, Aaron remained unconvinced and expressed her suspicion, stating that Daeon still seemed questionable and that they could not fully trust her yet. Hearing this, Namju apologized on her behalf and added that he could sense her magical girl energy. He also mentioned that she had been through a lot recently due to the increasing number of demons, which had likely affected her behavior. Daeun quickly agreed with his statement and once again promised that she would do her best to help and support them. Despite this, Aaron silently observed the situation and thought that Namju was not paying enough attention to her feelings. She found herself experiencing a strange sense of jealousy, even though she could not fully understand the reason behind it. Soon after, Sua joined the conversation and asked about the location of the demon. At that moment, Namju suddenly sensed something approaching and warned them that a presence was coming closer. Without warning, a demon suddenly appeared and grabbed Namju, carrying him away across a large building at high speed. Namju looked extremely frustrated and shouted that he was not a magical girl, trying to correct the situation even in the middle of the chaos. Meanwhile, another creature appeared, one resembling a cat-like demon. It declared that it had finally found him, which caused Namju to react with shock and confusion. The creature then began examining him closely, commenting on his fluffy appearance and tail, and expressing that he was exactly what it desired. Namju immediately told it to stay away from him and questioned what it was doing. The demon then insisted that it wanted to perform a workout session with him, which only made the situation more confusing and uncomfortable for him. To his complete surprise, it was eventually revealed that the so-called catgirl demon was not actually female at all, but instead had the features and identity of a man. Namju shouted out the name of the magical girls, calling for their help as he struggled against the demon. He urgently asked them to come and assist him before the situation worsened. In response, Aaron quickly arrived at the scene and immediately declared that he belonged only to her. The demon turned its attention toward Aaron and looked at her strangely before speaking, saying that it did not realize there were furries among them as well. It quickly followed up by apologizing for its earlier behavior, as if misunderstanding the situation entirely. Aaron, clearly offended, immediately denied the accusation and stated that she was not a furry at all. However, the demon continued speaking confidently, insisting that Namju would ultimately become its master instead. It declared that Aaron had made a grave mistake by taking something that belonged to it, warning her that she would now have to face the consequences of her actions. At that moment, Aaron realized the true scale of the threat in front of her. The demon was far stronger and more dangerous than she had initially assumed. Just then, Daeun also arrived at the battlefield and joined the fight against the demon without hesitation. As the battle intensified, the demon quickly noticed that Daeun's strength was far greater than expected. Daeun confidently stated that she would take the demon's heart, showing no hesitation in her intent to finish the fight. Aaron immediately tried to stop her, warning her while pointing out the demon's unstable and deviant behavior, describing it as something that acted obsessively and irrationally. Daeun, however, responded calmly and said that such a creature needed to be sent to an education course, treating it as something that required correction rather than chaos. Following that, they managed to subdue and contain the demon, placing it under control. After everything was over, Namju stepped forward and saved all three of them from the aftermath of the fight. He looked at them and asked if they had been feeling overly stressed lately, reminding them that there was no need to push things to extremes. He also mentioned that he did not think the situation required such harsh treatment of the demon. Aaron immediately responded, insisting that they had their own reasons for acting the way they did, and told him not to worry about it, adding that they should have purified the demon much earlier. Daeun then added that they should not rush things, and stated that she should have been the one to handle the purification herself. Aaron reacted sharply, saying that she had never accepted Daeun as a true member of their team, and emphasized that she was the one who had originally saved Namju. Sua also joined in, claiming that she believed she had delivered the final strike on the demon. Namju watched all of them arguing, and quietly thought that they were competing over who had the right to cleanse the demon. He wondered if it was related to rank, or some kind of internal hierarchy. Eventually, he interrupted them and told them to stop fighting among themselves. The magical girls immediately turned to him and stated that if he wanted them to stop, then he would have to choose who would be responsible for handling the next purification. This unexpected demand surprised Namju, leaving him visibly shocked by the situation. Sometime later, Namju found himself inside a cafe with Daeun. She handed him a menu and began instructing him to follow all the rules of the place. She then asked him, in a formal tone, whether he would like to choose his maid. Namju responded calmly and agreed. He then looked toward Aaron, who was present there, and after a moment of consideration he stated that he would choose her. They all eventually agreed to carry out the purification together, deciding to perform it in the form of a workout session. The atmosphere between them remained slightly tense, but they proceeded regardless. Before it began, Aaron turned her gaze toward Daeun and questioned her directly, asking if she had been scheming something behind the scenes. Her tone carried suspicion, as if she was trying to read her intentions more carefully than before. Daeun did not back down, and immediately responded that Aaron had no right to accuse her of such things. She added that Aaron herself had been acting as if she disliked everything, while secretly enjoying the situation more than she admitted. Daeun further remarked that they would all see the truth in due time, and then reminded Aaron to ensure her outfit was properly arranged and that nothing important was overlooked. Her words were calm but carried a subtle edge of provocation. Aaron listened quietly but internally grew more doubtful. She began thinking that Daeun only behaved in a composed and cooperative manner whenever Namju was present, and that her true intentions might not be as sincere as she appeared. Despite these thoughts, she did not respond further, and the group eventually moved on and started the workout-based purification session together as planned. After they completed the exercise, Arin, Namju, and Daeun went to meet Sua. As soon as Sua saw Arin, she reminded her of something she had previously said, that Arin had promised she would not avoid her again. Arin, slightly guilty, apologized and admitted that it had been her fault, explaining that she had not been thinking clearly at the time. Her tone was more sincere now, showing regret for her earlier behavior. Sua then asked Arin whether she had won in the purification process. Arin confidently answered that she had, although in her mind she was uncertain, realizing that she could not clearly remember everything that had happened after she had lost consciousness during the workout session. This confusion made her slightly uneasy, even though she tried not to show it outwardly. At that moment, Namju also spoke up and stated that since the purification was already completed, he would be leaving first. Arin immediately became concerned and asked him if he was feeling all right, carefully observing his expression. She thought to herself that he might be running a fever or suffering from some kind of after effect. However, Namju looked visibly frustrated and, without offering much explanation, simply turned and left the room. That night, Namju lay on his bed in silence, lost in thought. He reflected on how his body had been acting strangely ever since the purification process. It felt to him as though something within him was gradually shifting, as if his desires were slowly building up without control. This unfamiliar craving did not feel temporary, and instead seemed like something that would not disappear easily, no matter how much he tried to ignore it. As he eventually drifted into sleep, he experienced a dream in which he was once again performing the purification process together with Arin. The dream felt vivid and unsettlingly real. However, when he suddenly woke up, he immediately realized that everything he had seen was only a dream. This realization frustrated him deeply, and he thought to himself that this situation was beginning to disturb his mind more than he expected. Shortly after, his phone received a message. When he opened the door to check what was happening, he found his older sister standing there. She greeted him warmly and told him that he had been away for too long. She added that if he had informed her in advance, she would have come to pick him up herself. As she spoke, she hugged him tightly, expressing how much she had missed him since the last time they met. She then asked him gently how he had been doing recently, and laughed softly while speaking. Her name was Lee Hyul, and she was 30 years old. Namju's thoughts drifted briefly as he looked at her, remembering the past. When he was younger, she had been the neighbor who often took care of him while his parents were busy working. He also recalled telling her as a child that he wanted to marry a pretty girl when he grew up, and how she would jokingly tease him by saying that he should marry her instead. Thinking about those memories now, he felt somewhat surprised that their connection had continued naturally into grown-up individuals. Returning to the present, the two of them sat together, eating and drinking while talking casually. Hyul asked him the reason for his visit and inquired about his work and daily life. Namju also asked her about her job in return. She explained that she was currently on a business trip and that her work assignment was nearby. She then added again, more softly, that she had also come because she missed him. Namju lightly responded by saying that her job must be quite difficult. Hyul then teased him slightly, pointing out that he had also said he missed her earlier, and began asking about his college life. He replied that everything was going fine, and there was nothing too unusual happening. She then suddenly asked him if he had seen any monsters recently, which immediately caught him off guard. She clarified that she was referring to the monster incident that had appeared at his college. Namju replied that he had not been present at that time, so he had not witnessed much of it directly. Hyul continued by asking if he had been shocked when he saw it on the news, comparing it to something out of a movie. As she spoke about the monsters, Namju felt an uncomfortable sensation rise within him again, as if just discussing it was affecting his thoughts and emotions. He then told her that those monsters were dangerous and advised her to be careful. Hyul observed his expression closely and asked again if he was truly all right. Namju replied that he was simply dealing with academic pressure and some personal issues, describing it as normal college stress that many students go through. Hyul accepted his explanation and nodded, saying that it must be very stressful. She then added that she felt she should have been there to help him with everything he was going through. Hyul then took Namju outside, saying she wanted to get him something super cool. Namju immediately responded that he had already told her he did not need anything like that, insisting that he was not a child anymore. Hyul, however, dismissed his objection and replied that after purchasing something like this, he would definitely feel better. Namju sighed and eventually gave in, thanking her instead. Internally, he thought that he would simply pay her back later and refund the money so she would not be inconvenienced. Just as they were continuing their walk, a nun-like monster suddenly appeared. In an instant, it grabbed Hyul and pulled her to the other side. Namju immediately panicked and asked if she was okay or injured anywhere. Hyul quickly reassured him that she was fine. Namju then turned his attention toward the monster, but he realized that his legs would not move properly. He understood that he could not escape in his current condition. At that moment, a man appeared nearby and confronted the demon, asking why it always came there to cause destruction. The monster responded by grabbing the man's head and speaking in a distorted, intense manner. It claimed that every creature in the world had desire, and that contradictions within those desires were unbearable to it. It further declared that, by the grace it had been given, it must correct everything. According to it, people being hurt simply meant the world was becoming healthier and more balanced. The monster began to firmly believe that it was saving the world. Watching this, Namju thought to himself that the situation was completely insane. Realizing the danger, he concluded that he needed to summon a magical girl immediately. He urgently told Hyul to run away, but she refused, saying she could not leave him behind. Namju looked at her and thought that she would not be able to handle becoming a magical girl properly, but at the same time the situation was too risky to ignore. Hyul insisted that she wanted to help him and asked him to tell everyone what was happening. In that moment, through unknown means connected to Namju, she was transformed into a magical girl, now ready to face the nun-like demon. Hyul then engaged in battle with the demon and ultimately succeeded in defeating it. However, after the victory, she suddenly found herself in a strange, unfamiliar place. Confused, she looked around and noted that it resembled a confessional room. She also realized she was wearing unusual clothing and could not remember how she had arrived there. The last thing she recalled was being with Namju, holding a strange orb while he instructed her to recite a spell meant to purify the monster's desire. She concluded that if that was the case, then she must have gone along with it. Just then, she heard Namju's voice again. He was standing there, speaking to her in a troubled tone. He admitted that recently he had been going through a difficult phase. At first, it had only been strange and dirty dreams, but over time his desires had grown stronger and more intense until he could no longer control them. He further confessed that he had even begun feeling unusual excitement toward her, someone he had always treated like family. As he spoke, his emotions and desires became more apparent, and he moved closer to her, initiating what he called a workout session together with her. In another part of the fantasy world, a girl stepped out through a massive, heavy door that seemed to separate two different realities. As soon as she appeared outside, a skeletal demon was already waiting there, standing tall and motionless, as if he had been expecting her arrival all along. He asked her whether she was truly trying to oppose him, as if her resistance was something unnecessary. He then continued, saying that dreams eventually turned into reality, and because of that, he could not understand why she was wasting so much effort struggling against something that was already inevitable. His voice carried a disturbing sense of certainty, as though everything was already decided in his favor. After that, he changed his tone slightly and began speaking in a more inviting manner. He told her that instead of resisting, she should simply settle down and live a fantasy life with him. The girl listened silently, but her thoughts were sharp and focused. She believed that the skeletal demon had been deliberately letting the magical girls escape over and over again. In her mind, she concluded that if not for outside interference, they would have already gathered enough power to deal with all the demons by now. She also thought that this strange world itself should have collapsed long ago under the proper conditions, yet it was still continuing to exist. The skeletal demon then spoke again, asking whether she had even been listening to him properly. He followed that by commenting on her appearance, telling her that she should be wearing a specific outfit he had in mind. He said it would suit her perfectly, calling her something like a little devil. While speaking, he even showed her the outfit and added that if it looked good on her, he would elevate her status and make her the third bride of his future kingdom. His words were unsettlingly casual, as if he was discussing something already decided. Without giving him any time to continue, the girl suddenly moved and attacked him directly. Her strike was fast and decisive, and in an instant she destroyed his face, interrupting his speech completely. Meanwhile, in the other world, Namju suddenly woke up. His eyes opened sharply, and the first thing he saw was Arin, Sua, and Daeun standing in front of him. The sight immediately startled him, and he raised his voice, asking why all of them were gathered there together. Arin responded first, telling him that if he had not been feeling well, he should have informed them instead of hiding it. She added that keeping it to himself would only make them more worried and frustrated. Her tone carried concern mixed with slight irritation. Namju quickly insisted that he was fine and that nothing was wrong with him. However, Arin immediately countered him, pointing out that he had actually passed out earlier and that his nose was bleeding. She added that his condition seemed to be getting worse rather than better, which made the situation more serious than he was admitting. Hearing this, Namju thought to himself that it would be safer if he kept the real reason for everything to himself. He chose not to explain further, keeping his thoughts hidden. At that moment, Hayul was also present there. She asked whether something like this always happened to him whenever he went through the purification process. Aaron immediately replied that no, this had never happened before, which made the situation even more unusual. Daeun then stepped forward and told Namju that if he ever came to her place, she would take proper care of him. Her words sounded calm, but they carried a sense of confidence and assurance. Shortly after, all three girls, Aaron, Sua, and Daeun, noticed Hayul standing there and finally asked who she was. Namju introduced her, explaining that she was a magical girl. Hayul responded politely, saying that everything had happened very suddenly, and suggested that they should all try to get along properly and exchange greetings with each other. The atmosphere briefly settled into a more normal and formal interaction. However, that calm did not last long. Suddenly, another girl appeared in front of them, seemingly originating from a different fantasy world. The moment Namju sensed her presence, he immediately felt something overwhelming and unnatural in her energy. He described it internally as the sheer force of her desire, which felt dangerously intense and unstable. Alarmed by this feeling, he shouted urgently for everyone to run away, but before anyone could react properly, the girl immediately launched an attack, engaging all of the magical girls in combat at once. In the chaos, she managed to grab Namju and held him firmly while speaking to him. She said that her lord had instructed her not to harm him directly, but also had never forbidden her from turning him into one of them. She then declared that she would transform him into a member of an executive rank within their group. Namju, terrified by her words, thought to himself that he might actually be forced into becoming something like a demon. He realized he needed to act immediately in order to stop it. At that critical moment, Aaron rushed in from behind and grabbed the girl's hand, the same hand that was holding a strange orb. Using that orb, the girl was attempting to forcefully alter the situation and convert Namju into a member of another executive faction. The struggle over the orb intensified as the situation became more dangerous. After some time had passed, the girl suddenly found herself completely alone in an unfamiliar room. She looked around slowly, confused and disoriented, thinking that only moments ago she had been outside fighting. She considered the possibility that the others had used some kind of teleportation magic to move her without her realizing it, leaving her in this unknown place. As she tried to understand her surroundings more clearly, her attention shifted forward. In front of her, a large mansion suddenly came into view. The sight of it surprised her deeply, leaving her standing still as she tried to comprehend where exactly she had been taken. The horned girl slowly looked down at her own body and finally noticed the full extent of what had happened to her. She could clearly see that she now had curved horns growing from her head, a pair of wings extending from her back, and a tail that moved slightly behind her. The realization hit her heavily as she understood that this transformation was not natural. She immediately concluded that it had to be the result of the skeletal demon's interference and influence over her. Clicking her tongue in frustration, she tried to focus and access her abilities, but quickly noticed something worse. She admitted that she could not properly use her demon powers in this condition, as if something was sealing or limiting her strength. Feeling increasingly unsettled, she said out loud that she did not understand the situation at all and could not make sense of what had been done to her. In that moment, a voice suddenly came from behind her. It spoke in a calm, system-like tone, stating that within this system, a player could not be designated as an attack target. The voice belonged to Aaron, who had appeared silently behind her without warning. Her sudden presence added more confusion to the already unstable situation. Aaron then spoke with visible frustration, saying that she had originally thought she could simply eliminate the situation immediately and take care of it on her own. However, she admitted that instead of resolving anything cleanly, she had only ended up becoming a burden to her seniors. Her words carried a mix of annoyance and self-blame, as if she was dissatisfied with how events had turned out. At that moment, Sua, Daeun, and Hayul were also present in the same space. However, all of them appeared in unusual and unfamiliar forms, which made the entire scene even more confusing. Seeing their conditions, the horned girl began to suspect that the skeletal demon had used a spell that was somehow manifesting or distorting everyone's desires into physical reality. This thought made her even more cautious about the situation they were trapped in. While she was still processing everything, Namju suddenly entered the room. He looked around at everyone and then casually asked if they were all ready to perform the workout session with him. His tone remained oddly calm, despite the strange environment. After that, he began explaining the rules of the session in detail. He stated that each of them had been assigned a unique number, and they would roll a dice to determine who would participate. The person whose number was selected would have to undergo the workout session with the Demon King. He further explained that if someone managed to endure without collapsing and successfully exhaust the Demon King's stamina, they would be recognized both as his bride and as the winner of the session. The horned girl immediately rejected the idea, stating firmly that she had no intention of participating in such a strange and absurd game. Arin also expressed her disapproval, saying that she personally would not want the horned girl to end up performing the workout session with her senior. Her tone showed that she was protective and unwilling to accept the situation easily. Despite their objections, the dice was rolled, and the result selected Sua's number. Sua reacted with surprise as she realized the outcome, clearly not expecting it. Shortly after, she found herself covered in a strange slime-like substance, and she turned toward Namju, asking him if he was truly okay with what was happening. Namju calmly replied that he was fine with it. After that, the situation continued without stopping, and one by one, they all ended up participating in the workout session with him, following the result determined by the dice. The girl was experiencing a deep flashback of her life, during which she was silently reflecting that the sense of her existence had begun with being abandoned by her parents, whose faces she had never even known. She thought about how the world had always revealed how easily her weakness could be exposed to others, and how what followed had been nothing but endless scorn, humiliation, and relentless torment. In her memory, she understood that, in this world, the strong always preyed upon those who were weak, without hesitation or mercy. At one point in her past, an orc had appeared before her and informed her that she would become a demon. She had been told that if she failed, she would be reduced to a mindless monster, but if she succeeded, she would gain immense and highest-level power. She was also told that this power would eventually be used to take revenge upon the world itself. After hearing all of this, she had accepted the offer without hesitation, firmly believing that she would trample everyone just as they had once trampled her. In that moment, she had declared that it was now the turn of others to become weak and suffer as she had. Returning to the present moment, Daeun and Sua were standing directly in front of her. They mentioned that she had once had lightning rods placed on her head, and because of those rods, the electricity had been diverted toward her head instead of burning her skin. Hearing this, the girl began shouting angrily, accusing them of torturing someone merely to dig into their past, while still pretending to stand on the side of justice. Daeun then firmly told her to stop all of that and instead provide useful information, such as her goals or any purpose she had for being there, rather than recounting a dramatic story from her past. At that moment, Hyul also spoke up, saying that they should have stopped everything earlier, as the girl must have endured a very difficult and lonely life all by herself. He gently addressed her, saying that she must have felt extremely isolated after being thrown into so much hardship, and added that he would help her live a normal life from now on. Meanwhile, Namju stood nearby and said that he still could not understand how they had managed to win, adding that he could not properly remember everything that had happened. Arin reassured him, telling him not to worry, as they had somehow succeeded in the end, and more importantly, he was safe. She also mentioned that he had collapsed after purifying once again. In response, he said that he was fine, although internally he felt as if he had gone far beyond his limits during the purification process. The girl then stood there shouting again, asking whether they truly believed those girls were magical girls. She further insisted that since they had rejected the demon heart, it could only mean one thing, that he was a demon just like her. Suddenly, a mechanical demon appeared on the scene, casually commenting that their words were dragging on for too long. Everyone present was immediately surprised by her sudden appearance and questioned her identity. The mechanical demon calmly stated that she was not there to fight, but had simply come to dispose of some defective trash. She referred to the horned girl and said that she had put in a great deal of effort into her creation. The mechanical demon then responded that this was precisely true, but added that she should have followed the orders properly. After that, she addressed everyone, telling them that she would see them at the upcoming apocalypse, and then she left. After her departure, Namju approached the electrical demon girl and asked her if she was all right. However, she began crying and said that she had been abandoned once again. Namju thought to himself that she likely knew something they did not, and that they needed to save her at any cost. He then told her that she should become a magical girl, adding that if she did so, she could survive, and that they could face everything together from that point onward. She, however, asked him if he was implying that she should take revenge and then be discarded once she was no longer useful. He quickly assured her that they would become friends, but she suddenly raised her voice and asked whether friends normally treated each other in that way. At that moment, Daeun also joined in and said that it was true that they would become reliable allies and that they should all try to get along properly. The electrical demon girl then pointed out to her that she had electrocuted her just moments ago, and now she was suddenly talking about friendship, as if nothing had happened. Namju observed her quietly and thought that at least her heart was honest and straightforward. After that, a contract was eventually established between them, and the electrical demon girl became a magical girl, taking on the nickname White, while her real name was revealed to be Rhea. Namju then looked at Rhea and commented that the outfit suited her very well. In response, she shouted that they should not assume she would cooperate just because of that, insisting that they handle everything themselves, as she did not care and was simply going to leave. However, Daeun immediately stopped her, saying that she could not just leave after being saved, and added that at the very least, she should leave the tentacle orb behind. With the magical girls active, the damage caused by monsters kept increasing day by day. Seeing this, Namju began to think that they should stop magical girl activities for a while. He also said that if he himself were a demon, there might be a reason that such power was affecting them in unpredictable ways. Daeun immediately rejected this idea, saying there was no way he could be a demon, since they were the ones killing demons. She added that they could not possibly become what they were fighting against, and suggested that perhaps this magical girl concept itself was just one of Namju's strange thoughts. However, Namju responded calmly that, of course, it was not like that. He added that with demon executives now appearing, it would not hurt to be cautious, and while helping others was important, they also needed to protect themselves. He then turned to Hyul and thanked him for his help, saying that he must be very busy with his work. Hyul replied honestly that he was glad he got the chance to learn more about them. Aaron then stepped in, saying that everyone had done a good job that day, and dismissing them. And just like that, the matter ended. 2 weeks later, Aaron was sitting alone at a cafe, having a meal. She thought to herself that she should not overthink everything, because life was actually quite good now. It was not as if she desperately wanted to purify demons, nor that she had any strange thoughts lingering in her mind. However, as she was about to cut her bread, she suddenly hallucinated that the bread was speaking to her. It told her that if she cut it roughly, the bread would soak in meat juice, and it even began explaining in detail the correct way to cut it properly. Startled by this, she suddenly ended up crushing the bun instead. Later, Erin went home holding an orc in her hand. She thought to herself that she had never seen such a pathetic demon before, and decided that she should begin purification immediately. While doing so, she also thought about Namju, and considered that no one fully understood the danger that might come with using this power. But still, using it might be acceptable for now. With that thought, she began performing purification in the form of a workout session by herself. During this, she suddenly heard Namju arriving outside her room. He said that he could definitely sense demon energy around the area and worried that she might have gone to hunt demons alone. Erin looked visibly concerned, thinking that he had come all the way without informing her. She opened the door, and Namju immediately asked if she was sick, suggesting that she might be under demon influence. She told him that she was not sick, but he insisted that she was definitely burning up. Feeling increasingly uneasy, Namju thought that something was wrong and said he would call someone for medication. However, Erin stopped him and instead invited him inside, saying that she wanted to perform the workout session with him. At that moment, Rhea suddenly appeared from behind, shouting that the orc had been following her around and asking them to purify it or do something about it, as it was bothering her too much. Seeing this, Erin finally got the chance to fulfill her desire, and after that, all of them decided to perform the workout session together as a form of purification. After the workout session had finally come to an end, Erin slowly regained consciousness. As she opened her eyes and tried to gather her thoughts, she quietly assumed that the purification process must have been completed successfully. Sitting up, she looked around the room to assess the situation, and her gaze soon fell on Rhea, who was lying on the ground, completely asleep and unmoving. Watching her for a moment, Erin began thinking that it was honestly strange how Rhea always acted as if she were clever and composed, despite clearly being the weakest among them. The thought made her question whether this behavior was intentional, and she even wondered if it was some kind of tactic, like how a powerful enemy might act after switching sides to deceive others. After a brief pause, Erin turned her head, intending to confirm everything with Namju and ask him whether any of this actually made sense. However, as soon as she looked around again, she realized that he was no longer present in the room at all. The sudden absence left her slightly unsettled, as she had not even noticed when he had disappeared. Meanwhile, on the other side, Namju had also woken up. As he slowly came to his senses, he looked around in confusion and said to himself that he clearly remembered being at Arin's house just moments ago. However, as he carefully examined his surroundings, he realized that he was no longer there. Instead, he had somehow ended up at the foundation. The unfamiliar shift in location made him uneasy, and he instinctively tried to understand how he had gotten there. At that moment, someone approached him quietly from behind and asked if he had been doing well. Startled, Namju turned around and saw that it was Seobi standing there. Immediately, Namju confronted him, pointing out that he had disappeared without any proper explanation and had only decided to show up now. Seobi, however, responded calmly, saying that he had already mentioned his reasons. He then shifted the focus, praising Namju by saying that he had done an amazing job handling so many demons. Namju replied that it had only been possible because of someone's schemes, and that he had been forced to push himself extremely hard because of it. He then stated that everything should be enough by now, and demanded that Seobi take back the body, adding that he could not continue dealing with such a strange and unnatural situation forever. Seobi began laughing lightly, as if amused by his response, and said that Namju had indeed worked hard, which had been exactly according to his plan from the very beginning, at least until Namju had absorbed all the power of desire. Hearing this, Namju finally started to understand what had truly been happening. At the same time, he felt a strange and unsettling sensation coming from Seobi, something far more ominous than before. Realizing this, he immediately questioned Seobi about his true identity. In response, Seobi, who had previously taken the form of a harmless mascot, suddenly transformed into a girl. She then revealed that humans used to call her the Desire Monster, a being that fed on the desires of others. She began explaining that in the distant past, she had enslaved people within their dreams, controlling them completely, until she was eventually sealed away by demon hunters. She wondered aloud how much time had passed since then, and explained that when a crack had formed in the old seal, she had awakened once again and looked upon the world. She went on to describe how the modern world had changed drastically. According to her, it had entered an age overflowing with desire far more intense than anything in the past. Where people once experienced only simple forms of excitement, now their desires had reached entirely different heights. She explained that if she could properly harness this immense power of desire on her own, she could have become the ruler of the world. However, due to the weakness of her current form, she had been unable to absorb enough desire directly. Because of this limitation, she had used her remaining power to create black hearts, which transformed people into monsters driven purely by desire. She then revealed the most crucial part, that the one who had been consuming and processing all those desires on her behalf, the so-called hero of the story, had been Namju himself. Hearing this revelation, Namju shouted in anger, saying that she had been suspicious from the very beginning. She responded calmly, stating that they had now reached the final stage, and that it was time for the host to exit the stage. Immediately after that, she manifested herself before the entire world, appearing openly as a monstrous entity. People everywhere began watching her, reacting with fear and calling her a monster, while an overwhelming sense of tension and thrill spread throughout the scene. The Desire Monster then transformed into an even more dangerous and terrifying form and began causing massive destruction throughout the city. Buildings were damaged, and chaos spread rapidly. At that moment, Arin arrived at the scene as a magical girl, prepared to confront and destroy what now appeared to be the king of monsters. Standing nearby, Rhea questioned whether Arin could truly defeat such an overwhelming opponent. Arin responded firmly, stating that such a form of desire should not exist in this world. As she prepared herself, she suddenly noticed that Namju was also present there. Soon after, Hyul arrived as well, and immediately asked about the situation. Rhea explained that the enemy they were facing was a nightmare demon, and that she now understood everything, that the enemy had been gathering power for its revival through their purification efforts, which was why it had previously prevented her from attacking them. At that moment, the monster suddenly appeared behind them, and stated that because of their interference, the schedule had been delayed. It warned them that if they intended to interfere with her resurrection, they should give up immediately. She then described the apocalypse she intended to create, a world where the boundary between dreams and reality would completely disappear, allowing everyone to endlessly live within their own desires, trapped in an eternal cycle. The monster invited them to join her in this new world, but Arin shouted in defiance that they did not need such a nightmare and demanded that she return their senior. The monster simply laughed and told them to try their luck before launching a direct attack. At that point, Hyul stepped forward with a powerful weapon in hand and declared that there were 3 enemy executives present. He stated that he would take on the dragon himself, while the others should focus on the remaining 2 enemies. As the battle intensified, the monster sensed something familiar, and Sua suddenly realized that the monster had taken her outfit. The monster laughed at her reaction, calling it exactly what she expected, and then turned toward Eren, saying that she was now curious about the color of her outfit as well. She added that, in the end, even their powers would belong to her, making any resistance meaningless. Despite this, Daeun continued to stand her ground, saying that she did not care about any complicated explanations, and that all she wanted was the black orb inside the monster. Meanwhile, the monster began chasing Rhea, who panicked and ran away, shouting that she had never done anything related to being a magical girl before. Daeun reminded her to think about memories of love or things she cherished. However, Rhea internally believed that she had nothing like that within herself. At that moment, Hyul spoke reassuringly from behind, telling her not to worry and that it was fine. He said that from now on, they could create good memories together, and that friendship itself was also a form of love, which would be enough for her for now. Suddenly, another girl appeared from behind and launched a powerful attack, striking the monster down to the ground. It was the flying mechanical girl. She immediately directed her attention toward the dragon, while Hyul continued his attack as well. Filled with frustration, he expressed that seeing what had been done to Namju had made him truly angry. At the same time, he thought to himself that the girl might be some kind of demon, as he could not fully understand her nature. As the battle continued to escalate, the monster intensified its destruction across the city, spreading chaos further and pushing everything closer toward complete devastation. The giant tentacle demon suddenly appeared in front of the flying mechanical girl, catching her completely off guard. She was visibly surprised to see him there and immediately questioned the reason for his sudden appearance. In response, he stated that he had been there all along, observing everything without revealing himself. He then added, in a rather mocking tone, that her previous attack had missed its intended target and instead had only altered her form, making her body larger and turning her into a giant figure. At the same time, Hyul had undergone a transformation, growing into a massive size. Due to this sudden change, much of her clothing had been torn apart, leaving her struggling to maintain balance within the environment around her. As she moved, she nearly stepped onto a car, but before doing so, she noticed something alarming. Daeun had been captured by the surrounding monsters. She was trapped within a tightly sealed capsule formed by their combined bodies, and it appeared to be completely secure, with no obvious way to open it from the outside. Realizing the urgency of the situation, Hyul quickly assessed her surroundings and thought that since the structure resembled a mechanical system, there might be a way for her to interact with it. She concluded that perhaps she could fuse with it in order to break it from within. Acting on that idea, she transformed herself further, converting her body into a massive robotic form. In doing so, she declared that this was the only method she could think of to save everyone. She expressed that she had to protect all of them, even if there was no perfect way to ensure everyone's safety. Amid the chaos spreading across the city, Namju suddenly appeared out of nowhere and joined Hyul. Without hesitation, he began performing a workout session alongside her, even in the middle of the destruction. He then addressed the other magical girls, saying that they had all gone through so much because of him, and that they now had every right to stand alongside him and take part in the same training. After that, he began conducting cardio training with them one by one, turning even that desperate moment into a coordinated effort as they continued fighting and supporting each other despite the overwhelming situation surrounding them. After all the chaos and destruction had finally subsided and the intense battle had come to an end, Siobi appeared once again, standing directly in front of Namju. She stated that it was now time for him to return her power to her. She even went as far as to thank him for all the effort he had put in up until that point, as if everything had gone exactly according to her plan. However, the moment she observed the situation more closely, she was taken aback. Instead of surrendering or collapsing, Namju was still actively engaged in the purification process, continuing it in the form of a workout session alongside all the magical girls, as if nothing had changed. At that same moment, Eren stepped forward with determination, preparing to attack. Siobi looked at her with clear disbelief and stated that such a thing should have been impossible since Eren's power had originally come from her. Yet, despite that, Eren was still standing firmly against her. Eren then declared that they had finally managed to escape from her control, and she added that there was something important she needed to confess to her senior, Namju. Turning toward the others, she called out and asked everyone to listen to her, requesting their support and understanding at that moment. Hearing this, Hyul also stepped forward and stated that they should all work together to save him. Without wasting any time, Seobi launched a powerful attack toward all of the magical girls, attempting to overwhelm them once again. However, this time, the girls stood united. They fought back with determination and coordination, refusing to fall apart despite the pressure. After a fierce and exhausting struggle, they ultimately succeeded in defeating Seobi, bringing an end to her plan. Once everything had settled, Erin found Namju and finally confessed her feelings to him openly. At the same time, Hyul approached him with concern and asked if he was all right. Namju replied that he felt better than ever before, though he also admitted that everyone had been dragged into many strange and difficult situations because of him. He sincerely apologized for everything that had happened, especially the purification process, explaining that it had been an intense ritual and that he had not fully understood its nature at the time. Sua then responded by telling him that there was no need to apologize, as they had actually enjoyed those moments together. Rhea, however, added that words alone were not enough and that he should show his sincerity through his actions instead. Hyul reassured him as well, saying that he should not feel guilty because she had genuinely been happy to create special memories with him. Daeon also joined in, telling him that he should not feel shy and suggesting that they should continue moving forward together, even proposing that they keep doing their workout sessions as before. Following that, everything gradually returned to normal, and all of them transformed back into ordinary human beings, leaving behind their roles as magical girls for the time being. In the period that followed, it was said that about a month earlier, a mysterious monster had taken over the city, causing widespread panic and destruction. However, a group of magical girls had intervened and protected the city, preventing complete devastation. The government later made multiple attempts to identify and locate these girls who possessed supernatural powers, but all their efforts ultimately failed. Their identities remained hidden, and people continued to wonder where those magical girls had disappeared to. Meanwhile, Arin and Namju returned to their normal university life, spending time together as if everything had gone back to the way it once was. One day, Namju went to meet her and asked if she had caught a cold. She replied that she was fine, and he apologized for arriving late. He then asked her about Sua, wondering whether she had been doing well. Arin explained that Sua had been handling presentations on her own recently, managing things without her. Afterward, the two of them decided to go watch a movie together. During their time together, Erin asked about Hyul, and Namju told her that Hyul had recently moved away, though she seemed to be getting along well with Rhea and Daeun. He also mentioned that Daeun had become quite popular on social media lately. As their conversation continued, Namju suggested that they should head inside, and they soon entered the theater. While watching the movie, they sat close to each other, quietly holding hands. At that moment, Erin found herself thinking deeply. She wondered if Namju was still affected by whatever had happened in his dreams. It felt to her as though he never crossed a certain emotional boundary with her, and she quietly wished that he could be a little more open and expressive. Although she appreciated the way he treated her, she still felt that something was holding him back. After the movie ended, they stepped outside and found that it was raining. Namju asked why they were heading back so quickly, and Erin responded that everything felt slow and heavy, asking him to slow down a bit. When he asked if something was wrong, she replied that nothing was wrong and that she was simply tired. Holding his hand gently, she then asked him to walk her back home. Eventually, they arrived at her house. After dropping her off, Namju said that he would head back, but Arin stopped him and suggested that he should at least dry his clothes before leaving. After a brief moment of hesitation and conversation, the two of them ended up performing a workout session together once again, just like before. Namju quietly came to realize that despite the peace around them, it still felt as though their mission was not truly over yet.